with Recruiting Daily, and we're here with Erik Kostelnik. I said it right for the first time. I wanted to remind you guys that everybody is on mute. If you do have questions, go ahead. You can put it down there where it says ask questions, and we will get Erik to answer those. Share it out. If you're on Twitter and you're sharing it out, make sure you use hashtag #RDaily. I know it used to be RLive, and some people are like, no, Jackie, you're giving out the wrong hashtag, but it really is RDaily. And so share those out, and you can add questions there on Twitter as well, and we'll be sure and get to those. Now, full disclosure, TextRecruit is a partner of ours that we work with, but complete full disclosure, I'm a total geek for TextRecruit. You've been reading Recruiting Daily and recruiting tools for a while. You'll know that I used to talk to TextRecruit back when they weren't very fancy. Now they're all fancy, right? So
I don't know about that.
I know you very well, but can you just introduce yourself to our friends, Erik?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Erik Kostelnik. I'm the founder and CEO of TextRecruit. I was just talking to Jackie. Been in the industry for about 15 years now, and have been, with multiple different technologies out there, and started TextRecruit because really there was a need to consolidate all the messaging that was not a phone call or an email out there for recruiting and HR, and found there was a really big need for it. And talked to people like Jackie, talked to people like Matt Condit and Tim Cup and Dean DaCosta, and kind of all these leaders that have been out there, and then specifically clients that wanted to use it. And I said, if we build this thing, do you think people are going to buy it? And then went to the clients and said, hey, are you going to buy this thing if we build it? And they said yes, and so that's what we did. So it's 3 years later, and it's becoming a nice company here. So it's been fun.
Well, it's been nice to watch you guys grow. I know that you've kind of had your hand in the recruiting space. I would ask, what do you think the biggest change has been from now versus 10 years ago that you've seen as far as recruiting and the technology they've been using? So,
yeah, I mean, there's been a significant change. So we actually kind of like to think about it here from just a timeline perspective. So, you have like and it's all kind of based on the decades. Actually, it aligns fairly well with decades. So if you look at the 90s, you kind of have the transition of just paper to online, right? So anything that was done from a paper perspective then it's shifted to an online perspective. So that's job advertisements, actual mail, physical pieces of mail turned to email. You started seeing the introduction of kind of the new applicant tracking systems, and how those actually help you consolidate databases and run reports on databases instead of actually having these spreadsheets of data. And then you transition kind of from that into more of the social side of things. Well, actually, then you had job boards, right? So the job boards kind of took over, and that was like the online marketplace for job opportunities and communication of job opportunities. And then you shifted from the job boards to social, right? So then LinkedIn came about, and people started talking on Twitter about jobs, and people started leveraging Facebook for opportunities. And social recruiting became that next thing. And now you're in mobile. Right, so now it's shifted in mobile, and so really over the last, and it's kind of been compacting, right? So job boards were for like the 2000s, and then you had social kind of come up through that as well, and LinkedIn take over. And now you're seeing this mobile transition of actually things basically transitioning 100% to mobile. So really where we see a big opportunity is the fact that two things are going to happen, and they've already happened. Number one, there's been a complete commoditization of professional profiles, right? So you have all of these profiles out there on LinkedIn and in your database and in Career Builder and Monster. And so the value of actually understanding who works where is not high, and that's why you've seen companies get bought like Monster and Career Builder and LinkedIn. Right? The value of those profiles are not really worth anything anymore. So now what's going to be important is understanding the movement of people. Right, so understanding these labor forces and why people move places and when they move places, and predicting the movement of people, and then communicating with those people via mobile. Right, so that is what we're invested in, is that communication. The big challenge of like predictive analytics on people is a very difficult problem to solve, and you're going to have a lot of data in order to predict that movement of the labor force. And there are companies out there doing a pretty decent job with it. But we're focused on communication because we think that that is going to be the key. Because getting a hold of anybody nowadays is impossible. Right? We're all like gnats. Like we're just like buzzing around all the time, and like we have no way to like focus on something for more than 160 characters. So that's what we're focused on, and that's where I think the change is happening right now.
Well, that's awesome. I know one of the things. Oh, Animal had a question just to make sure. Did you say knowing where people work now is no big deal, and that's why Monster got sold? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So my perspective of the valuation of like a career builder is getting sold as well. So LinkedIn got sold as well, right? Indeed got sold. All of the job boards are getting sold. Dice was up for sale. So why all at the same time did all the job boards go up for sale? Well, including LinkedIn, which I would consider a job board as well. The reason why they all went for sale is because data is becoming commoditized. So profiles of people out there are becoming less and less costly. So it's a race to the bottom, right? If that profile or that information of that individual is going to be soon to be completely available on Google, like you search for an engineer in San Francisco at Google, and like all of a sudden all the Google engineers pop up. Right? How valuable is a database of people? Right? What is valuable is the communication tool to try to get to that person. And also what is important to understand like is how like predictive analytics on when those people leave. Like I want to see a tool for recruiting that like tells me every single salesperson that is in the Bay Area that is interested in leaving their job right now. And soon that we'll be able to have that. And that's kind of the next thing that I'm thinking about. Like that's what I really want to focus on next. But you know, the communication piece, we need to ensure that this is like we leverage all the new systems of communication and like help HR communicate better with its employees and its candidates. And that's where we're starting first. But the movement of people is kind of the next thing we got to think about.
Well, you know, you bring up something important about the communication piece. So why text recruit instead of like using InMail? I mean, people have messaging on Facebook. You can send messages on Twitter. Like, why text?
Texting? Yeah. So it was just like it was just the common resource that everybody was using already, but there was just no centralized platform. So it was literally like the lowest barrier to entry for us. So when we looked at this, it was like people communicate 4 different ways. They communicate via phone, via email, via text message, and via social, right? And so when we looked at like there's a centralized platform for email, there's a centralized platform for phone, there's a centralized platform for social, right? Like you have each one of these kind of platforms that you use to communicate, and it harbors all your information and your conversations. But there was nothing for texting, and like people were literally going on their phones, you know, and like we did the studies where like, you know, recruiters would be like looking at their ATS and like putting in the contact information and texting them from their own phone, right? And I was like, wait, data security, compliance, OFCCP compliance, you know, TCPA, all of the rules and regulations, like you just broke every single one of them by doing that, right? So you have to consolidate communication, and it's not just text message, right? It's gonna we're gonna consolidate our platform to help recruiters and HR folks use like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, who knows, Snapchat, right? We'll probably have to integrate eventually, because you have to understand like if you're between the ages of 13 and 44, you're not using email anymore for personal communication. So why do enterprises think that they can still use email to communicate with candidates and employees? It's just there's a complete gap between reality, right, and what actually is available out there for the enterprise. And so communication is something that I think is the biggest problem that we have, because there's just so many. It's not like you can pick up a phone anymore. Like it's not just the phone, right? It's 20 different things that you communicate with. So that's a big issue for hiring funnels. Like how are you supposed to get a hold of somebody if like you have no idea how they communicate, and you only have the 2 ways to communicate, phone and email, that your company supports, that no one uses? It's like a complete gap. right? So text is just like the easiest, like it works, 37% response rate, 12 minutes response time. You send out 1,000 people, you're getting 370 responses back. You have a centralized platform that all your recruiters log into, just like InMail, right? Only we're not limiting the amount of text you can send, right? And it's much more powerful. So it's not just about like text recruiting our company. It's about like, no, you have to understand the way, like what is valuable and what people are seeing challenges with. And it's like, if you know everybody at the top of the funnel, then you have to like get them to the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. And in order to do that, you have to have a tool that actually can communicate with them effectively, either automated or the one-to-one. And text is literally the most effective way to communicate right now. So that's my answer. That was a long-winded one.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, but you bring up an important point. One is you did go and talk about between ages of 44, right? But we know that we're in a multi-generational time right now as far as hiring and with employees. So how do you get people on board? Like they're really comfortable already doing the email. Like how do you get them, getting excited about doing text recruiting versus the other way?
Yeah, so we generally don't have to get people excited because they already have issues or they're already doing it. They just need a platform to like be able to manage all the texts. And so when we look at the companies that we work really well with, it's like it's always those companies that have like 5,000 employees or more. And yeah, we have a big SMB base as well. We have like 350 clients now. But like the enterprise, when you have like over 10 recruiters, you have to make sure that you understand all of the communication that's happening and make all that communication visible and integrate into the existing systems. And that's why we have 15 partners now. And that's why like, Career Builder and iCIMS and Taleo and Workday and all of these big companies have decided, we need Text Recruit. Like as a company, we don't want to build this ourselves. Like we want to leverage Text Recruit for our customers because we know it's an issue. So generally we find that like companies have already started doing it. They just haven't realized like, oh my God, we need to make this scalable and reportable and compliant. And so we're kind of getting there. It's almost like LinkedIn before the InMail, right? Remember you'd like be able to communicate with anybody and they didn't monetize it yet? That's exactly where we're at with Text Recruit, right? Is that like you're currently doing it just on your personal phone, and now you need to come over to this side so you actually can manage it and have reporting and do all the compliance things and make sure that you're capturing that data. So luckily we don't have to convince that much. We just have to like educate. And that's our job, is just to be educators. And so our salespeople are always, talking to people that are interested on it or want to learn more. And ultimately it's, it's just a cycle of education. So.
Well, you bring up an important point, and you brought it up a couple times in talking about compliance. I know, I personally think that people don't recognize it as a compliance issue because they've been using it for so long, right? Like everybody texts, so they don't feel like it. Can you talk about some of the risks involved if you don't have like a full-on system that can be captured? Like what are the risks with that?
Sure. So let's just take a couple of examples of workflows right now. So if I'm a recruiter, and so say I have a team of, say I'm a recruiting manager, I've got 10 recruiters right now, and I've got an HR department as an organization. So I have these 10 recruiters on their personal phones right now. Say they're texting with, on average, say 5 to 10 people a day. So I'm communicating via text message on my personal phone with 5 people per day. So you're communicating roughly with 100 people per month per recruiter. So all of a sudden it's 1,000 candidates that you're communicating with on personal devices with your recruiting team. And let's say that your company is 2,000 employees, or say, just make it easy, 1,000 employees. And you actually have hiring managers using their own phones to text people at the stores, or if there's a brick and mortar, right? So you just increase the risk profile of like data security, compliance, OCCP dramatically by now having every single one of those text messages on phones that even if you do control them from a corporate standpoint, you can't actually consolidate and report on, right? So if they're not corporate issued phones, I mean, you can make a case like, okay, all the corporate issued phones, they're texting through that, but there's no centralized platform to see it, like the communication, how that's happening, be able to report into the applicant tracking system, have the recruiters be able to see back and forth that maybe the other people are having with them. And if it's not a corporate phone, then you actually run into a situation where it's like, no, that recruiter leaves and they just left with every single contact that you had, that they spoke with, right? And that relationship. So OCCP compliance, like you run in a situation where if you go in an audit, like you're not going to be able to reference the information that has been going on back and forth. Could put you at a big risk. If you have if you have data security policy inside of your company, and you actually get personal data that is candidate or employee data that's on non-issued tools or communication strategies, then you're at risk there. And the compliance piece of actually giving people the ability to opt out of communication is huge, right? You got to be able to opt out and give opt-out functions, and make sure that's all consolidated for the company in order to be compliant from a TCPA and can't spam, right? So those are all things that are real. That like if your people are texting right now, you are absolutely putting your company at risk if you do not have a centralized system. And so ours just simply takes all that and consolidates it, and you can either attach it to your existing phone that you have at your desk, or we assign you a text recruit number, which people prefer because they actually won't give their numbers out to all the candidates. So so that's kind of the feedback on compliance. But we have a bunch of data on our site that people should take a look at if they have questions about that.
Got it. So is it one of your, Alan, thanks for being here. He asked a question. He said, are you saying that one of your product's big values is helping with OFCCP and EEO compliance? If so, while he is very familiar with it, he said the last thing he needs is one more OFCCP process. But I mean, this is just automatic, right? Because it goes back.
Yeah, it's not a process. It's just helping you. It's helping you with an audit, right? So if someone audits, like if you get audited for your OFCCP, like you want all of the communication that you've ever had with all your diverse candidates, right? So like you do not have that if you are texting on your personal devices. You do not have that if you're leveraging something that is not a corporate mandate and corporate communication. So Text Recruit isn't like, we're not like a compliance tool, we're a communication tool, right? We just consolidate all of that messaging and give you the ability to manage and report on all of the messaging that you send via text to your candidates and to your employees.
Well, now, and just so everybody who's on the phone, again, this is Erik Kostelnik, and we only have 30 minutes on Recruiting Live, so if you do have questions, go ahead and put them down in the question box or put them out on Twitter, and they will get to me on my handy-dandy phone, and we'll make sure that Erik gets those answered. Now, thanks, Christy's here, and Christy asked, how is this platform usable for independent recruiters, and are there campaigns you can set up via Text Recruit?
Yeah. We've got a ton of one-man shops that use us, and we've got a large SMB team, and we have 4 reps that manage all of our SMB clients, which is generally between, so SMB for us is under 2,500 employees. Generally that's like between 1 and call it 20 recruiters, right? So so we absolutely have a team to support the one-man shops. It's literally $588 for the year. You sign up, we give you 30 days to cancel if you don't like it, and you pay by credit card, and it's just super easy to get you up and running. And basically what it is like we have pre-made templates in there for you, so you can actually use the templates that we provide. You can send campaigns, you can load in lists. Like for the smaller companies, you really don't need like an integration. But you are able to use our extension integration. So when you're on like your LinkedIn or Monster, or you're on your ATS, you actually can use Text Recruit extension through Chrome, and it just automatically helps you send messages when you're in those systems. So it's a super easy, really kind of non-committal product for the SMB. You just get in and start using it, and you can use it within the first 6 hours of signing up. So.
Well, and I'll tell you guys, because if y'all went to HRTX this year as we passed through, I know Alan was there and some of others were there. So that was an event. It was all like invite only, but I had to communicate with everybody at the same time about traffic, about parking. And even though it wasn't like a full-on recruiting structure, I was able to send everybody the text messages. And if you've done anything like group interviews, was what it made me think of. Like, I know if you're doing some high interview term, like if you're doing retail or customer service and you're running around and you're busy, it's really hard to communicate with every person. Text Recruit does allow you to send it out. I know that if I was doing that, you can send out, and I know it's your product, but you can actually send out the job descriptions and have links and things like that. That makes it really easy in communicating with all of your candidates. And it's always nice just to have them so you can stay in touch with them too. Yeah. And I don't know, like, I don't even check my voicemail. Do you check your voicemail? I haven't checked my voicemail in 5 years.
I don't, and it's horrible too, because like I mean, let's take a look. How many calls? I mean, I don't really give my phone number out anymore, but I mean, you can just like see, I don't answer my phone either. So like literally, I never answer my phone. So, and it's horrible too, because you know, you have people like you're close to, like your friends and your family and stuff, that you just don't talk to anymore. And I mean, I literally don't talk to them and I text them back. And it's just, I think it's just a societal change, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. I tell my salespeople all the time, like, human connection is key, right? Make sure you have a human connection, because if you don't have a human connection, I'm going to build a robot to replace you. Right. That's the reality, right? It's it's just, I mean, it's one of the reasons, sadly, but like, it's one of the reasons why we partnered with IBM Watson. Like, we built our chat tool on top of Watson, because what was happening was, like, people were using our tool and they were sending 1,000 messages out and getting 370 responses in the first 12 minutes, and like they weren't answering the candidates. Like, right. They just weren't texting them back. I was like, what is going on? Like, I'd like call users of the product and I'd say, hey, do you know that you have like 300 responses in your Text Recruit account right now that you haven't gone to? They're like, oh my God, really? I'm like, oh my God. All right, I need to build a robot to like take that first step out of it, and that is like get people interested, get their feedback, see where they live, and then schedule some time with the recruiter. That's all Ari does. That's our automated recruiter, and that comes with Text Recruit too. You can add it on, right? Because we just found like it's very difficult to have those kind of quick conversations, and people want to have meaningful conversations that like about the opportunity or about what's going on in your company, or to answer questions. So all those things are super important, but the reality is no one answers the phone anymore.
That's true. That brings up another point that you said. Nobody answers the phone, but I know you boast of a pretty big response rate with Text Recruit. So what is the response rate in sending a text message other than any other means of communication?
So we have 100% deliverability rate, right? Because we verify every single phone number. So basically, like, you sign up for Text Recruit, what happens? Okay, then you can integrate into your ATS, and we can pull all your candidates from your applicant tracking system. It's one of our partners. We have 15 partners. You can check our website for that. Or you can just start loading candidates in there via Excel or manual, and then we're going to verify that that is a cell phone number that is active. And then once that's done, then you can send the message, and that's 100% deliverability, right? Because all text messages come directly to your home screen, right? So you're going to see it, and then the response rate is 37% in 12 minutes. So it's like very fast, very effective, very, very quick way to get a hold of someone and tell them about what's going on, whether it's top of the funnel or interview management or career fairs or onboarding process or emergency services, kind of going all through the pipe. And we have text apply, where you can like get a short code and post a short code out there and a keyword to attract candidates via text message, right? Like,
how does text apply work?
What's that?
How does text apply work? Like, I mean, tell me how it works, and then how do we integrate that back into our ATS?
Yeah, it's super easy. So, like, the reason why we created text apply, and I don't want this to be a commercial for us, but like this is the reason, like what happened. Yeah, like this is what happened. Like we had Cheesecake Factory, and Dan over at Cheesecake Factory was using us, and then he started putting his Text Recruit number on Craigslist ads, and we're like, what are you doing? Like, what is that? And he's just like, oh, actually, I find that people are texting in more than they're like clicking this link. to apply for the job. And I'm like, so people are texting in to your text recruit, and then you're having communications with them real time. He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, well, that's a product. We're going to monetize that, right? So we're going to make some money off that. So that's called text apply, and we're going to do a short code and a keyword. So, for example, like if you're skiing down the mountain in Mount Hood, and you see a bunch of text ski to this number to apply for a job here, so you text ski to whatever 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and then automatically we text back per the customer, hey, this is Eric with Mount Hood. Thanks for your interest in our job opportunities. Press 1 for hourly jobs, press 2 for managerial jobs. And then it goes and answers a bunch of questions. And then if you're on Text Recruit, you actually can live text to that candidate that just came in. So you get a notification like, hey, you have an inbound candidate from Text Apply. And then you can text with them. And then that data then goes into the applicant tracking system. But really what this is like it's a little talent community that is being built via text message prior to the application process. So it's just we're attracting this little talent community. Yeah, and it's extremely effective if you have like trucks or if you have storefronts or anything that is like decentralized processes in companies. Like it'll be a good deal for you. Hospitals use it as well. So.
Well, let me ask you another question, and this is from Recruiting Animal, aka Michael. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you so much. But he was asking, like, how do you get the phone numbers of passive candidates? Like, I know Lucia's a tool that you can use for that, but isn't that one of the struggles? Like, how are you supposed to get the numbers in the first place?
All right, so that's a great question. So let me just be clear on kind of what we're doing right now. Is number one, to use the platform, you got to have an application for the candidate. So they actually have had to go through an application process. By not having someone go through an application process, that actually is not you have to get an opt-in in order to text them. So it happens, I know it does, that people are like finding numbers out there of passive candidates and they're texting them through our platform. And I'm sure it's happening right now, but what we try to do is we try to make it available to use text apply to get that initial opt-in for passive candidates. And then we always give you the ability to opt out, and you can put opt-out messaging at the end of the text recruit messages always. And so that can be set up, but we don't advise texting candidates that have not gone through an application process within your organization. So I can't advise to do that.
So the answer is I don't know.
That's my answer.
All right, good.
I don't know. No, the answer is like you can find numbers like in resume databases and different resources out there, but Connectify used to have them until they got bought. But
well, that's always fun. Alan did bring up, he said you need to have an ATS and you have to agree to opt into receiving texts, but you don't need an ATS, right?
You don't need an tracking system to use our software, no. You can load in lists that you have via Excel. You can do one by one. You can use our extension. So if you're on sites, you can just like, if you go to our website, you can take a look at some of the data, but it'll highlight the number on the internet, and you just click it, and Text Recruit pops open. You can send a text message there. So the opt-in piece is actually just automatically they opt in when they complete an application with you. So that's just like that's a true opt-in. But job opportunity is actually non-commercial messaging. So it's not a commercial message, it's a non-commercial message. So it's actually regulated a bit different than like sending someone something that they have to purchase. So like job opportunities, healthcare, political messaging, all of those kind of operate under different terms than like a commercial message.
All right, well, now
talk about.
No, not really. We have about a minute. I wanted to ask you, so where do you see things going? I mean, you've kind of had a pulse on the business. We know that we've been seeing a lot kind of going into the AI space. What do you think the next thing is outside of texting? Like, what do you think the next thing's going to be within recruiting?
Yeah, so I honestly don't think AI is going to be the big thing. Like it's interesting to see how buzzy that is, and you actually see it kind of dying off right now. But I believe that AI is going to be a commoditization as well. So anybody's going to be able to build their own chatbot out there through Watson or Google or anything else, and it'll be really easy to do that. And so I think that that's going to take like the first top level of any conversation and automate that. And you can do that through us, or or you can do it on your own through IBM. So where I think things are going is that number one, there's going to be massive consolidation. I think you guys hear this all the time. It's like there's going to be massive consolidation of resources. So we're just going to see like a couple big companies out there just do everything really well, and you see that with the progress that Workday's been making. Like Workday's done a really nice job of like packaging an all-in-one solution. And so the question is how does that transition into the SMB? And I think that's the question, right? Is like how do you get an all-in-one system for everything HR in the SMB? And that's going to be very difficult, I think. And so because there's going to be like a ton of companies that are trying to do that, and there's not going to be a lot of like education on or there's not going to be kind of one winner, I think, within the SMB space. So that's on the technology side, but I mean, the gig economy is real. Like the way that people operate right now is changing. Like people communicate different, and we talk about technology and all these things that are cool to talk about, but like people are changing. And the way that people live and the way that they work and then communicate and kind of all these things are going to change. And so the real question becomes is like, how is HR going to be set up, and how are companies going to be set up to actually like recruit and employ people in the way that they want to work? And so I think that is something that we need to start thinking about. So.
Well, Erik, don't ever change.
Okay.
I appreciate you so much for being here, and thanks guys, especially Christy, Alan, Stefano, and Michael for asking their questions. I appreciate you, Erik, so much. This is going to be recorded and it'll be up on Recruiting Daily. Feel free to continue to ask questions. I'll text them to Erik. We'll make sure that he answers those. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, and I appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Hey, see ya.